Tired of wasting your time on useless exercises like this for your shoulder? Do this instead for immediate relief. What's up guys, Dr. Nick Bonforte here. In today's video, we are going all over shoulder impingement. The majority of complaints of shoulder pain is being classified and diagnosed as shoulder impingement. So we gotta figure out what we're actually dealing with and go from there to actually solve the problem. So with shoulder impingement, that classic term of impingement, what does it actually mean? Well, in the shoulder, there's many structures that can be impinged. It's actually quite normal to get impingement within the shoulder structures. It just depends on if it's symptomatic or asymptomatic. Symptoms meaning you have pain and discomfort. Asymptomatic means nothing. Now, when we're thinking about the shoulder, this is a shoulder model. This would be the right shoulder. So it's on the back of me right here. I take it off me. So this is the arm bone, the clavicle, and then the shoulder blade. Now, in the shoulder, we have structures inside the shoulder. Typically, structures that are getting impinged are the bursa that lives right in the space between the arm bone and the roof of the shoulder, and then tendons of the rotator cuff muscles. Those are the typical structures that are getting impinged when we talk about shoulder impingement. Going a little bit deeper into shoulder impingement, there's multiple factors that can contribute to this impingement type. There could be mobility restrictions. There could be restrictions at the rib cage or the spine because the shoulder blade lives on the spine, and the shoulder blade dictates the roof of the shoulder, so it can be impinging on that. It could be rotator cuff strength deficiencies. There's many reasons, but when we're thinking of impingement, there's also restrictions on the bony formation of the scapula that can be contributing to the impingement-like things. But when we're thinking about it from a high-level overview, it's just the roof of the shoulder blade being impinged on the arm bone moving. And the idea is we want to focus on how the shoulder blade can actually maneuver to open up the space that we have between the arm bone and the shoulder. So in this video, we're gonna be working on how we can actually tilt and manipulate the shoulder blade as a factor in contributing to shoulder impingement and the things that you could do for this. A muscle we have to consider that acts on the shoulder blade that is overlooked many times is the serratus anterior, which originates on the rib cage and has attachments into the shoulder blade. And it helps upwardly rotate and move the shoulder blade in an upward fashion. When we do that, we help tilt the shoulder blade back from the arm bone moving, creating more space into the shoulder, less impingement-like symptoms. So in this case, we're taking a band to actually target this. We're putting it on our wrists. From here, elbows are gonna be by the side. We go out on the band, and then we're just gonna punch our elbows forward like this, and then come back down. So as I push up like this, I'm maintaining a parallel position between my forearms. I don't want to collapse my forearms in. Now you'll also be addressing the rotator cuff external rotators in this case, which also plays a huge role into how the shoulder is actually functioning. But we're really trying to bias this serratus muscle here. So you'll feel the shoulder muscles working here, and you'll also feel it here. Now the biggest thing you want to keep in mind with this exercise is thinking of making a C type of shape, or maybe really a U type of shape as we go up into the motion, leading with the elbow. So whatever helps you, a U or a C. The idea is when we're going up, we don't want to just be pulling out and just raising up like this. We want to think about pushing with the elbow in this type of fashion that will help address all of this serratus and help bias that muscle, which acts on the shoulder blade, which helps the impingement. So from here, again, from the side view, I pull apart, and then from here, I'm gonna be leading and punching with my elbows forward and then back down, really creating that mind-body connection to this area working. And when you do this repeatedly, as you get stronger, this will help really work the shoulder in a very good manner. And typically I like to start with this one, higher rep volume, 3 to 4 sets, 12 to 15 reps. The idea is you're getting more activation and more work to the serratus anterior. The key with this is making sure the elbows stay in a parallel position, or the forearms stay in a parallel position as you go up. Because if you're going up just like this with no band tension, the exercise is quite irrelevant. You want to make sure you're maintaining that parallel position and you're punching up with your elbows to really bias this serratus anterior and rotator cuff muscles throughout this exercise. The lower trap is a muscle we have to consider that acts on the shoulder blade. So the trap is composed of 3 parts. We have the upper trap right here, which goes from the shoulder blade to the neck. We have the middle trap, and then we have the low trap. So the low trap, middle trap, and upper trap. Those are the 3 parts of the upper trapezius muscle. In this case, we want to focus on the lower trap muscle, which acts on the shoulder blade to upwardly rotate, which also has the effect directly on the shoulder for helping shoulder impingement, because if we pull on the shoulder blade like this from the lower trap, it upwardly rotates the shoulder blade, which creates more space in the shoulder joint, offloading the impingement-like symptoms. So we gotta really work on the lower trap in a specific way to help bias that. Hitting the low trap with this banded A row is a really good one to start with, because when we have shoulder impingement, anything overhead to address the lower trap, which is good for an example, lying face down and doing prone Ys. That's a great one to also address the lower trap. But when we're dealing with shoulder impingement, that can likely irritate it. So in the short term, doing things below shoulder level to address the low trap can play a huge role in the overall progress. So with this, we're just doing an A row where the elbows are staying locked out, and I'm pulling my arms to the side of my body, and I'm making sure my shoulders go back as well. So I don't want my shoulders forward and just pull my arms down where my shoulders dumping forward. I want my shoulders back, and then I pull, and you could hold. Typically in the beginning, I like to hold this for a little bit of duration. So for an example, 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and then I come back down. You do about 3 to 4 sets of 8 reps. That way you get more time under tension to get more activation and help bias the lower trap with this. Now this is taken from the concept of studies that have shown when you're face down, your arms are by your side, and you lift your arms up, there's been some EMG activity or muscle activation to the lower trap. So we're taking this concept of that and applying the same motion to this upright position using some bands in this banded A row to really start to address that low trap. When we start to address it and we get more activation, it acts on the shoulder blade to help upwardly rotate it, and over time can definitely help shoulder impingement-like symptoms. Let's take it to the basics of how the shoulder actually just moves from a standpoint of scapular control. So we could do simple things like shoulder rolls. Now the main thing that I see that is done wrong with shoulder rolls, it's looked at as very simple and it gets rushed through and there's no intention. So individuals just do something like this and there's really no mind-body connection and there's really doesn't yield any good results. But when we zoom out, we scale back with the exercise and really put a lot of mind-body attention to this circular pattern in a clockwise position and a counterclockwise position, it can yield a lot of good results. So with this, we want to keep I'll do demo on one arm. This could very well be at both arms at the same time. But with this, you want to have that mind-body connection of just moving the actual shoulder blade through a scapular rotational movement. So from here, we're going to punch out, up, I'll break the concept into movements and then add it to a circular pattern. So it would be punching out, up, back, down, and then forward. Now you don't want to be robotic in the actual movement, but that's the idea of how you go through the pattern. So into one motion, it'd be it'd be forward, up, back, down, forward, up, back, down. And that's a circular pattern that's really geared towards biasing how the shoulder blade actually moves. The key with this is when you're moving through that motion is not to bend the elbow or do any weird movements with the arm. You want to keep the arm locked out straight and just really focus on independent movement of the shoulder blade and the body staying nice and stiff. So the shoulder blade is moving versus my arms bending, my upper back's moving. You want to stay nice and tall like a statue, straight, and you're just moving the shoulder blade as best as you can. You'll feel restrictions more so in particular movements. So you might feel more restricted going forward. You might feel more restricted going backwards. Going backwards is mostly common in this exercise, feeling the most restricted. Likely the restrictions will feel like going backwards is the most versus forward. So the idea is to find your restriction and you work into that. So that's going in this motion, and then you could reverse the motion going in both directions. And the more the input to this particular movement, the better. So instead of rushing through these circular patterns that look simple, slow it down, get more mind-body connection to this, and it can play a huge role into how the shoulder is actually functioning. So to recap, this video focused on 3 exercises that really address and have a biased action to the shoulder blade. In the beginning, we learned how the shoulder blade plays a huge role into impingement-like symptoms. When the roof of the shoulder blade is collapsed down and it's not moving as well, it can lead to these impingement-like symptoms. So we've got to move the shoulder blade backwards and up to actually create more space into the shoulder, less likely of dealing with shoulder impingement-like symptoms. So hopefully this video gave you some insight on exercises of why it's important to address the shoulder blade when we're actually trying to address shoulder impingement. If you did find value in this video, I would really appreciate it if you support my channel by subscribing to my channel, like this video, and leave any comments down into the comment section to tell me a little bit more about what you liked about this video, what you didn't like about this video. Did any exercises help you? Let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Until next time, this is Dr. Nick.